Hey, what's up? Are you ready for the Alpha 21 update for 7 Days to Die? We've got a ton of reworked systems and balance changes to discuss, as well as new gameplay features that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. Join me as we explore the new landscape in this brutal post-apocalyptic world. With immersive gameplay and endless replay value, 7 Days to Die is the ultimate survival experience. So let's jump right in and discover all of the new changes expected very soon. First up, let's look at what will probably be the most significant change to the game witnessed in the past several years. Learn by reading, otherwise known as learn by looting. Currently, you need to spend skill points to get better at crafting, and recipes can be unlocked by spending skill points, reading certain books, or reading schematics. But with the new system, you'll need to read magazines to increase your crafting level, which will progressively unlock higher tiered items. All schematics other than mods have been removed from the game. It's easiest to explain this and to understand if we just walk through an example. So, let's look at shotguns. Here you can see the shotgun magazine skill, currently 1 out of 100. Once the player reads 3 magazines, the next quality level is reached for pipe shotguns. It will continue to rise as more magazines are read until the player reaches level 11. Then the double barrel shotgun is unlocked, but only at level 1. So the player will have to choose between being able to make a level 1 double barrel shotgun or a level 4 pipe shotgun. Here's another graphic that I made that will help visualize the progression. The more magazines you read, the closer you get to unlocking higher tier items. But you might face some hard decisions since those higher tiered items will be significantly lower quality than the previous tier. Some crafting skills have fewer magazines than others, and there is a dynamic probability to find certain magazines and their corresponding parts based on how you spend your skill points. So if you spend skill points into shotguns, you'll be more likely to pull shotgun magazines and parts out of loot than you would rifle magazines and parts, although you'll still have a probability to find all magazines no matter how you spend your skill points. Once a crafting skill is maxed out, you'll no longer get that boosted probability. It'll revert back to its base probability. In addition to finding magazines, you can also purchase them from the trader or select them as a quest reward. Magazines also have a weighted probability to be found in areas where you would expect them, such as more cooking and farming magazines in a Shamway food store and more robotics magazines in a Mo Power store. There are some pros and cons to this change in my opinion. Let's say right now in Alpha 20 you're an agility player and you have 5 points spent into pistols. Unfortunately, the Desert Vulture and SMG are schematic only items, so you'll have to rely exclusively on RNG to find them or to buy them from the trader. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you can play for 50 days or more and never find them. The moment you do find them, you could be able to instantly craft a quality 5 item. With the new system, you can slowly chip away at the magazines until you unlock them naturally and craft a quality 1 right away. You might then scrap your, for example, Desert Vulture later on when you can craft a level 2. And you might scrap it again when you can craft a level 3, and so on. I typically sell stacks upon stacks of weapon parts, but in Alpha 21, I'll be saving them all to incrementally increase my weapon quality as I increase the number of magazines I've read. It's important to note that loot has been adjusted too, so you'll be somewhat less likely to pull higher quality items out of loot. Those that you do find might be better off scrapped for weapon parts so that you can craft yourself a better one. The drawback to this is that it restricts a certain playstyle. Some players, especially in multiplayer groups, spend most of their time mining and building, and since they won't be out looting much, they won't be able to advance their crafting skill. They will be forced into the cities to raid working stiff tool stores in order to find magazines and unlock better tools. Traders will also be offering lower quality items and their inventory will be scaled to your current level. And I think that's the perfect segue to talk about the new trader changes. The traders will be receiving a long overdue overhaul in Alpha 21. Their compounds are being renovated much like the major renovation we saw with Trader Wrecked in Alpha 20. Here's the concept art for Trader Bob's new compound right here, complete with a helicopter landing pad, although there has been no confirmation of a VTOL vehicle being worked on for Alpha 21. Traders have had their secret stash removed, however, I heard a great suggestion that perhaps the secret stash should remain and only be accessible by increasing your reputation with that trader, for example, completing a certain tier of missions. As I mentioned, traders will now have a rebalanced inventory so that you won't have access to end game items starting on day 1. For example, you shouldn't expect to be able to buy a motorcycle on your first day like I did on this video right here that you should check out once you're done with this one. Traders will also become more specialized. Currently, These are their specialties: Trader Jen for medicine, Trader Bob for vehicles, Trader Hugh for guns and ammo, Trader Joel for armor, and Trader Rect for food, obviously. There's also an inactive trader in the game files that specializes in tools and construction materials, but there's been no word on any new traders as of yet. While we're on the topic of rebalancing, let's talk about perks. Alpha 21 will see the removal of everyone's favorite perk, Sexual Tyrannosaurus. Instead, the benefits will be incorporated into all melee perks, so if you level up in batons, you'll become more efficient with stamina use when using batons. Don't get all sentimental that we're losing sexy T-Rex though. This is a great change. Currently, all melee builds are held back by stamina cost, and this is even more evident on higher difficulties. Several points into sexy T-Rex and strength is mandatory no matter what melee weapon you choose. Therefore, skill points are almost always spent the exact same way no matter what playthrough you do. It's always some kind of a strength hybrid because sexy T-Rex was just that good, and you can't play without it. Furthermore, Flurry of Blows is getting a similar rework, but instead of being integrated into the melee weapon perks, each skill tree will get its own version. For example, Agility might have one called Blade Master, which will be for increased attack speed with knives, and Fortitude might have one called Flurry of Fists, which will increase punching speed. Again, this will allow you to comfortably remain in one skill tree without feeling pressured to heavily spend points in other skill trees to create an optimal melee build and min-max your character. Currently, in order to get the most out of batons by maxing out Sexy T-Rex and Flurry of Blows, you'd need to spend 8 skill points to get Strength level 7 and 4 skill points to get Sexy T-Rex, along with 8 points to get Agility 7 and 3 points in Flurry of Blows, a whopping 23 skill points outside of your primary build. And while we're on the topic of weapons, spears will no longer be throwable. Instead, they'll just have a heavy power attack like all other melee weapons, and their damage has been increased. It's probably safe to assume that by buffing melee builds with all these changes, they'll be increasing the difficulty in other areas, so let's dive into that. To counter your advanced melee fighting skills, the developers have decided to make you significantly more thirsty. That's right, drinking water is becoming scarcer and more difficult to make in Alpha 21. You will now only be able to find murky water in loot and water sources. Boiled water can no longer be found. Of course, you can still boil the murky water that you do find, but you'll need a cooking pot. Glass jars have been removed, meaning no more trips to the water hole to fill up 125 jars instantaneously, but you can make a trip to the water hole and scoop a few handfuls into your mouth. But I'm not sure why you would, since you'll have a chance to get dysentery and take 5 damage each time. Instead, your primary source of potable water will come from the new crafting station, the Dew Collector. Unlocked by magazines, which we discussed earlier, the Dew Collector will passively generate about 3 pure waters per day, and you'll need to obtain a rare loot item, a water filter, before you can craft one. But you'll likely need several to meet your dietary and crafting needs. Oh, and their footprint is a 3x3 area, so hopefully you have some spare real estate. And reportedly, glue crafting has been adjusted as well. Controversial? Oh yes. They're certainly increasing the difficulty here, but in doing so, they're adding a lot of tedious frustration and RNG, but I will reserve further judgment until I'm able to play the game and experience it for myself. But on the surface, this change has very little appeal to me. Speaking of surface, the water simulation has been reworked, and although I don't think we'll be seeing any waterborne vehicles or aquatic life anytime soon, at least water will flow properly and fill adjacent blocks. This should allow you to create moats, fountains, and wells properly and increase the overall feel and appearance of lakes and pools of water. The player will also be able to swim better, so it won't feel quite so sticky when you're trying to dig up a buried treasure in the middle of a lake. The most recent announcement has been some major changes to vehicles. In a nutshell, vehicles will do more damage to zombies and even blocks, such as fences or buildings, when you run into them. But on the other hand, your vehicle will also take a lot more damage. It'll take several repair kits to completely repair a vehicle, and the amount repaired with each kit will now be influenced by Grease Monkey. Vehicle collisions will produce some cool spark effects on solid objects, and when hitting a zombie, you'll see improved ragdolls, blood splatter, and even dismemberment. With all of the major changes out of the way, let's do a rapid fire review of some of the more minor changes. Double doors have been added, and partially damaged doors with visible openings will allow you to shoot and attack through them. Interactive environmental hazards have been added. So far we know about this flaming gas pipe, which will require the player to find and shut off a valve before proceeding. There's a new player model, and here's a preview of what that looks like. And there will be new armor models to go with that. So far we've been shown the scrap iron armor, and military armor. There will be a chunk reset option, which will be off by default, but when on, regions of your map will reset back to their default state after a set amount of days. So if you did some mining in one area, you might return a few weeks later to see everything back to normal. This will not affect a bedroll or land claim block zone. Wires will now be invisible by default, and you will only be able to see them when holding a wire tool, which should help with base aesthetics. This is currently available as a mod, and it's linked down in the description if you'd like to play with that. A danger meter will be added to the heads-up display to let you know how difficult a biome or POI is that you're in, helping new players to avoid areas that might be beyond their skill level. You will be able to pin crafting recipes to your heads-up display as well, so that you can keep track of the ingredients needed to craft selected items. This is also currently available in a mod, and I've linked that below as well. Random world generation is reportedly about 4 times faster than it is currently. An old bug where weather would look different for each player in a multiplayer server has been fixed. Explosions will be able to dismember multiple body parts. And finally, bandits have been ruled out for Alpha 21, but they're sounding really nice, with the ability to possibly use all types of player weapons and also advance and retreat to cover. Bandits are also said to be a part of 2 factions, the White River faction and an unrevealed opposing faction. It's said that you will reach a point in the story where you have to decide which side you're on, and the story will change and diverge from there. But bandits will have to be the subject of a separate video, since they're most likely going to make their grand debut in Alpha 22. The final thing I'll leave you with is a slideshow of all the new art and models coming in Alpha 21. This will be my final Alpha 21 update, since reportedly there isn't much left to reveal until the developer live streams start up. So make sure that you're subscribed, because I'll be updating you on any and all Alpha 21 features and changes as they're revealed in the coming weeks. Let me know what you think of some of these controversial changes in the comments below, but keep it civil, my friends, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Happy New Year! Hey everyone, I just wanted to say thank you for watching, for leaving a like, but most of all, thank you to the long list of amazing supporters that you see right here. I hope this episode has earned your subscription, and I can't wait to show you the next one. Best wishes to all, and goodbye.